So I got the artistic style story, look of the main character more, and then I just did stuff that's more about the character. Basically kind of just reiterating the stuff that I've already, like the ideas I gave you as far as like what his SCP ability is,
Yeah.
and that's how we're explaining the saving and loading and stuff like that.
Now,
Uh,
for each mission, is there going to be any save points inside, or is it going to be
I
a
actually did that one too. What I did was I said I kind of worked out like what a typical day for the agent would be.
yeah,
So each day or whatever, and the day isn't connected to real time or anything like that, but
yeah,
he would wakes up. And I thought this may be cut. I'm not sure because we could add another SCP ability to him. And this would be that he might have a dream about whatever SCP he wants to that he's going to capture that day, and then that way we can kind of give like a little bit of a hint to what it is and show like a little bit of stuff about it, or maybe not even do that at all because it might be scarier not to do that. But either way, he wakes up. He can roam around Site 19 only once, and then he'll go to a certain NPC, like either that O5 guy that recruited him, or whoever, maybe a team leader or whatever, and he starts his mission for that day, and then the game will save right before the mission starts. But then I figured, especially in like the horror areas, it's scarier when you can't quick save,
yeah,
and you know that if you die, you're gonna lose all the progress.
hmm
So that makes it a little bit scarier. It's like it can be a little bit frustrating, I understand, but I'm not imagining that the missions are gonna be ridiculously long because there's
yeah,
gonna be so many missions that I figure the missions are gonna be kind of short.
yeah,
So, when he goes on the mission and finally captures the SCP, then the game will save right after that. So his progress gets saved there. Then, when he returns to the facility, we might have some more story progression going on, and then he can roam around again, looking at all the crap and stuff like that. And then eventually, whenever he wants to kind of quit or go to the next day, then he goes to his room and goes to sleep, and that's when the game saves
yeah.
again. And then it recycles again to where he's waking up, and it's a new day and everything like that. That was my idea. I mean, obviously, I could completely change, but
Yeah, I like that actually. What would be pretty cool is when they log in or
hmm
when they boot up the game,
hmm
then what would happen is we can show like after everything loads, it's just black and it's loading in the background. Instead of I don't know if we're going to show like splash art or the engine or anything right now, but
right,
just for the time being, we can have it just load up for black and then everything loading up in the background, and then as it finishes, you can show like his eyes opening and him getting out
right,
of bed.
right. Yeah, eyes opening or like a fade in, kind of thing. Like when like his eyes adjusting to the light or something like that. And then shit, what else did I have here? I had something. Game stage. Oh, I don't know, like the loading screen. At some point, maybe it could be simple, like completely black, and then like in the like lower right corner, we could take the SCP logo and have it animated some way to
Yeah.
indicate that something's loading or saving. We
Would
can do that throughout the game.
Yeah, what would be pretty cool is you see the lines, the arrows that go through.
Yeah,
We can maybe have those spin around and then go in and then
yeah,
come out.
yeah, yeah, something like that.
Yeah,
And then that's just could be like that the game's saving or the game's loading or something, and it just be. I also want to make the user interface as minimal as possible, but I don't want to get to the part where it gets like I've seen games try to do it where they don't even tell you how many bullets your gun has and stuff, and you kind of have to count it, and that never seems to work
yeah,
very well. So I think at at worst, what we should do is have nothing on the screen, and then maybe have a key like tab. Like if you hit tab, it
yeah,
could, and we could have a setting. Either like the person could have it so when they hit tab, the HUD stays up for 5 seconds and then fades out, or tab toggles the HUD, or they could even just go in the options to say they don't ever want a heads-up display, or they always want it on. That way it can be up to the person on that. And then I also thought, uh, just in case, like say two people want to play this game on the same computer, we should have like a profile system. Like when you
yeah,
first boot up the game, it goes to like the start game splash screen, and then you could do create profile, load profile, or resume from last save. And so whatever the most recent save is, you could resume from, and then it would go into the usual game.
yeah.
Um, multiple. I almost feel like if we go over all this stuff now, then when we do start at 8, it's gonna be like, oh, we already talked about all this, and we don't want to
Well,
talk about it.
yeah, I was just going on some main parts
Yeah.
just before we get anybody else in, just so we have. It's not us just sitting here with nothing to not
All
know
right.
to talk about.
Yeah, I definitely wrote a ton of notes because I figured,
Yeah,
and I've got the whole thing. I already sent it to you, but like the whole thing of how the beginning of the game could start, and I'll
yeah.
go over that. Let's see here. I'm writing down that heads-up display thing so I don't forget.
Yeah, or we can also implement something more minimal. That's what it's not HUD. That should be. We can do something like maybe integrate it into maybe he has like a wristwatch or something on his hand that shows the details or something like that. Just more, we can have the guns actually showing it. Like I think Fear did it where the bullets are actually on the gun.
Mm.
But I do like the idea of that fading HUD. That's actually pretty nice.
Yeah, especially if you either that or and then also do we want to do the damage system that a lot of games are doing now in that
Where it
there's
just
no actual health, it's just
it turns
it,
bloody.
yeah, because it gets all red and everything, and then as you calm down and like chill out and not get hurt, it fades back and you're at full health again. Do we want to do something like that, or do we want to have an actual?
Well, the thing is, are we gonna have just a health system, or are we gonna have a health or maybe a sanity system?
See, I don't know that either because, yeah, I mean the sanity system would be nice as far as because like an amnesia and stuff that adds to it. We have to do it a little bit different than amnesia,
Yeah,
obviously, but I do like the idea of the crazier you get about these things, like an amnesia, when like the paintings would change
yeah,
and stuff like that. I think was cool. Um, and again, I think what's good, the biggest thing about this in amnesia, you're just running away from the monsters and trying not to, in this, like
yeah.
I
Actually,
said in one of the
go with,
posts, you have to fucking capture them.
yeah,
So imagine in amnesia that you can't do any damage to these things, but you still have to figure out a way to restrain them and everything. I also thought like some missions we could have like either a team to go in, because sometimes if it's a really dangerous one, they're not going to send an agent by himself. So we could have like a team of agents going in, but they could get picked off, or um, something like that, where you end up being the only one left, or you get separated, or something like that. Or if it's not even supposed to be a scary SCP, uh,
yeah.
you could have like a team, like I don't know, have you ever played like SWAT 3 or SWAT 4 or anything like that?
No, I'll look it up
Okay.
quick. Look it up.
Basically, it's basically you're like the team leader of a SWAT team, and you can kind of tell like, and it's divided into blue team and red team, and you can be like blue team, go around and bash open the door and throw in a flashbang, and they'll follow your directions and stuff. And you're kind of it's almost like you're micromanaging the team as you're also like a first person shooter kind of thing. So, you could have something similar to that. Like they make you a team lead at some point, and then when you have like a team of 5 agents, including yourself, and then you could send some agents. And not only that, but we could even have like the 4 other agents that you end up working with or something like that. We could try to flesh out their personalities and character and actually make the player enjoy those characters. And then like if they die, they fucking die.
Yeah, so
There's no.
so kind of like Mass Effect then.
Yeah, sort of like that, where and they can actually die and be dead. Obviously, if the only thing I can think of there is if someone like if you like really like a character and they end up dying, then I guess you could kill yourself to revert back and they would be alive again. But I'm just trying to think of that is the only issue, I guess, because you could. I
Well,
mean,
we
but
could
I mean,
also have scripted moments. No, well, not scripted, but choice moments when they're capturing the SCP. Say if they're like capturing, or if they're trying to capture, what was it, 173?
hmm
And maybe something happens that if they don't choose the right choice of the final moments to capture him, they can lose a teammate that way. And
that yeah,
that way,
and I mean,
as soon as he captures it, it saves he lost a teammate.
right? I guess you could do that. Where I also thought of Shit, I had something. Ah, damn it! I hate it when I have something and it fucking vanishes. I'll think of it in a minute.
Yeah.
Fuck. Yeah, we really got to figure out how to do the AI though. That's gonna be the biggest pain in the ass.
Yeah. Well, it's Unreal Script. I've heard is supposed to be a lot like C++. So if it is, then I should be able to do at least a rudimentary AI.
Hmm.
Most of it's just if statements pertaining to
Right.
what's happening,
Right.
while statements pertaining on what's happening.
Right.
So I'll try to work on that. The one thing I need to work on would be line of sight, having a focus on that.
Yeah.
Uh, but
Especially if you're hiding from something.
yeah,
Oh, what I was gonna say is, we could actually have somewhere in the game where you have to die in order to do so, like say they lose someone that was important that
hmm
they needed, and or something like that, or like there's a certain mistake, like someone dies, but then like say a door can't be opened anymore because that person died, and for some reason that door can't be opened. Like you need, let's say you need two people to open a door,
yeah.
and one person. This is really simple, but
So what you mean is you go through and there's something that's very, very small that you can miss that could cause that guy to die. And then when you find out that you actually need him, you have to make the choice of killing yourself to go and then try to figure out what caused him to die and try to
something like
save him.
that, or something where you make a decision or you miss something that causes someone to die, and you actually have to kill yourself in order to revert, because you're using your power
Yeah,
essentially to revert back, and now you have inside knowledge that no one else does about, you know and you're like, oh shit, come back, you like grab him out of the way or something instead this time,
yeah,
and barely, it's like, how did you know that was gonna happen, well, I'm sorry, something. So yeah, something like that where you'll actually, like, the player will actually have to use their power of being able to revert time back to midnight.
yeah. I like that. I like that a lot.
So
All right, let's see. I'm gonna go ahead and is the guy that you have on your list on
yeah, he's
yet, or
still off.
he's still off?
Yeah, it's that Victor Tamika guy, the
Yeah.
V Tamika. That's the only guy I have on. Wait, Tamioka? I don't fucking know. Something.
Yes.
The coding concept art guy. One of our concept art guys.
I'm gonna send a PM. I'm gonna get this Cyrus in real quick. I think that's the other guy. I'm pretty sure. When I looked up his name, that's what came up.
Okay.
Yeah, Linux Anonymous.
Also, I added the ACAB guy to the right side thing as concept art and 3D modeling.
Yeah, I noticed that. I'm gonna go ahead and busy. I'll get a hold of him a little bit. I'm gonna try to send a PM to him, see if he's on Reddit at least,
Okay.
because he just joined Reddit just to be a part of this project.
Okay.
Let's see.
One little Easter egg that I want to have in there, like an ongoing Easter egg, is that uh, the things Dr. Bright is not allowed to do at the Foundation
Mhm.
list of, goddamn, there's like a ton of them, but like having the reasons before, if a mind controlling SCP is discovered, it is to be turned over to the proper authorities, not to be used to advance himself to higher in the Foundation, or something like that. Like, or SCP-963 is not a joy buzzer. Things like that, where we see him do these things that caused it to get put on the list, like as a background
I
thing.
get it.
Just,
I get it.
yeah, just purely as a background thing, not something that's forced on the person. But just walking by, and then Dr. Bright is, you know, doing something, silly.
Yeah.
Like SCP-018 is not to be taunted. So like once the player brings in SCP-018, maybe Dr. Bright could be sitting there fucking with it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's cool actually.
So just little things like that. And we don't have to show all of them. Just pick and choose them, and you can be like, oh fuck, that's on the list of and some people aren't gonna even see that, and they'll just be like, oh, that's kind of funny, and then some people will who have read this list go, oh shit.
Yeah.
I want to do stuff like that, stuff that's really ingrained into the website that
Yeah, that
that
the people who are reading it will actually know and like. I get it.
yeah.
That's pretty good. Let me see if we can get a hold of this guy. I sent the PM to ACAB. See if he'll get in.
Okay.
Let's see if there's anybody else.
Oh God, it's so hot.
Yeah, it's 100 degrees over here where I'm at.
Sucks.
Alright.
Yeah.
Alright, Cyrus?
Yeah.
Alright.
Yeah.
We're gonna give it a little bit more time, see if somebody else is gonna get in. Me and Khad was just talking about a few things.
Alrighty.
Oh man.
Yeah.
So how many other people are going to be joining
That's
this?
not trying to talk to you.
Hopefully, at least 2 more. We want to get ACAB in and Vitamokia if he comes in.
That's not, I want to talk to
Alrighty.
Mom. Hey, how's it going? Sorry for,
One moment.
misunderstanding.
Oh man.
What I like is, did you notice that the Elix Grasp is actually one of the leads over at the SCP?
Yeah. Yeah, I saw that. Oh, cause he at the main SCP subreddit where I just did that SCP game lobby, he posted in that one, said I'm intrigued or whatever. But his little thing says SCP Wiki Senior Staff and Chat Op.
Yeah, that's pretty badass.
So that's pretty good that he's helped. I mean, he's already helped a lot with.
Yeah.
And so I'm keeping like a folder on my
Damn,
computer
that's what I
of
need to do.
all the shit. Like I have all the concept art, all the idea stuff, all the screenshots like I've posted of the levels. I had someone, that Pingus guy sent me a PM with a model, early model that he's working on, like a picture of it.
Yeah.
For 002. So I saved that.
Sent you one? Do you have the link for it still?
Hold on, yeah, let me find it. Because I have the actual picture saved, but let me see if I have the link. I should. It's really simple, but that's why I even asked him. I said, "Is he gonna go for more of a realistic look?" Because it looks like he started to do it kind of in a cell shaded kind of look. Because it looked like a lot of his models were like that, but he said he can do it realistically. So, was it? No, this is my messages. There we go. So this is all he had so far. That's all he had so far.
I'm okay, I see. That's not that bad though. I can see what he's
Yeah.
doing.
Yeah, so he's doing that, and then I'll have to have him make that door open, like have an animation for that. That's another thing I forgot is to tell him to do is because we're gonna need different animations for models too, and that has to be done in the model editor and all that kind of crap as well. So that's the only real animation that it's gonna need though is that door opening.
Yeah. I completely forgot to cross-post this to SCP.
Oh, this?
Yeah. I'm doing it right now. Hopefully, we can still get somebody from there to get in.
Yeah.
I like, even if they're not going to talk, be able to sit in. Maybe it'll get them intrigued to join the project.
Right.
Let's see.
Cool. So yeah, I figured we start with whatever notes we have, and then just go from there, and probably even come up with something new. Or
Workup link is really finicky. Yeah, that's pretty cool. I like that idea too. There was a couple. So we're gonna go from SCP-1 all the way up to whatever we're at right now.
yeah, I mean that's the idea. Obviously, that would take a long time, but I
And
mean
the
that's
thing is, there's also SCPs that aren't classified.
yeah. Some we'll see. Some are gonna be. Uh, yeah, it's gonna be interesting because 01 isn't, it's unclassified, so we can't really do that one. So what I figured, like I was saying, in that I put in that post that where he talked about, because I asked him if they were in sequential orders, if they were actually ordered like by chronologically, and he said they were. But then he was talking about how some would be hard to make it into a game and stuff. I said, well, what we can do is obviously when they recruit the agent or capture him. Um, it's not going to be like the very beginning where they don't have anything. So I would say like the first 5 up to maybe even the first 10 will already be at the facility. So that number 1 will give the player kind of something to look at before he does his first mission. And then number 2, just that kind of stuff. And then say then the first 10 are at the thing. Well, then he goes and and they haven't classified it yet, but he's going to end up going and getting the 13th one. But he's just going off to his mission. When he comes back, well, 11 and 12 had already been captured by other agents as well.
Yeah.
In the meantime that he was capturing 13. So they just happened to get back before he did, and then they classified those as 11 and 12, and then he brings back 13. So we're obviously going to be skipping some, and most of the ones we'll be skipping are things that are either like the safe ones that wouldn't be interesting as far as a mission would go,
Yeah.
like like the skeleton key. I mean, there's nothing really to that.
Well, the skeleton key is the one that opens. What was it? It doesn't open any door. Doesn't it open to a certain?
It opens any door, and it opens any electronic lock or anything. Like it opens basically anything. But then it also said something like it can be fooled as well. So they think it's sentient. Like it can be. I forget how they fooled it, but they said that it can be fooled. But I don't think there was anything as far as the recovery, like in the SCP, that was anything that would be really super interesting. I mean, they just like found it, kind of thing. Or no, they found it on a like a guy was using it to break into banks or something.
Yeah.
So
Well, that is already 1 of 10. I thought there was one that didn't open up all locks and it opened up into another dimension, or was that a door?
That was the one that has 7 keys in one door, and 6 of the 7 keys basically they all open into a different dimension. But the 7 keys basically, if you used them, you would die because you would go in and it would just rip your body apart. And that one I think was explained where there's a bunch of teenagers or something that found a key ring of like those 7 keys, and they were trying to use it, and like one of their friends went in and he got ripped apart. And they also said like you get ripped apart, and then later, like much later, like hours later, the body parts are thrown out of the door later on. And they said that only one of like the hypothesis was that they go to another dimension where it's unstable for human life. So when they try to go into it, the forces in that other dimension just rip the body apart, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And they gave 1 key to each, like a bunch of D-level guys, and then they figured out which one.
Which one was bad.
Yeah. So
that would be interesting when we're talking about the D-level experiments that we can get the person to watch. That would be very interesting to have.
Not only would we have it so that, like, say he's roaming around SCP, he could encounter and you could see into some of the cells. He could see like sometimes, I don't know if we'd have a trigger that would have a possibility of having an experiment going on at the time, so that he could just be walking by and, oh hey, cool, an experiment's going on, and then you see some guy explode or something inside of a room. And stuff like that, as well as having a different mode. And I don't know how we would access this mode before loading a profile, almost like an achievement kind of system or an unlockables kind of system, where before you even load your profile to resume your game or start a new game, it will say that any SCP that you've already captured could be added to the list, possibly, or we could just put all of them that's in there. I think actually we should just do that. Just put all of them in there.
All of them in.
All the ones that we've done so far.
Yeah.
So, say we've done the first 10, and the guy hasn't even started the game yet.
He can still go
some
through and look through them.
And go look at all 10, because maybe some people don't really want to play the game like that, and they just want to look at these SCPs and see what they can do. Then that's totally up to them. And they could go in, and yeah, they would go to a different mode where you're kind of either a researcher watching what's going on, and like you said, you could take control of maybe one of the D-level guys. And then, yeah, once like the D-level guy dies, you go back to the view of the researcher, or you can just toggle back. You can do that with tab or something and toggle back. Tab seems to be like the universal key for toggling shit. So, toggle back and forth between the researcher or and they'll have AI with it. That we said we didn't want it to be scripted, so we wanted it to somehow adapt, so that you could actually watch the same SCP multiple times, without
it saying the same thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Are we recording this yet? Because we're like going through these ideas.
It's been recording since the beginning. Actually,
okay,
let me just go make sure. I don't want it to. Yeah, I'll make sure. Hold on.
What the fuck? I got cobwebs flying around in here.
Yeah, it says it's recording.
Okay, cool. What's gonna kind of suck is it's gonna take us a while to get to everyone's favorite 173.
Yeah.
Because it's 173 things we have to make. I mean, not only like I said, we are skipping some as far as missions go, but we're still going to include all of them up, that we can. And so we still have to make 173 models and 170, like all these different, kind of things. But yeah, so there was that for the D level, and then we were going to do another mode similar to that. I think it should be external to the actual story or campaign, maybe, where before you load your profile, it could be the containment breach mode or whatever, where you can pick any SCP, or maybe even pick multiple SCPs, like up to 5 of them, to say that they've all containment breach. And I mean, there's going to be some, obviously, on the list would be selective. We wouldn't have, the skeleton key containment breach, because that's nothing, you can't. But, we could have
like if we do something that's like what's it called, stuff that isn't actually dangerous,
yeah.
Then we can have someone that maybe broke in and we're trying to stop them, but
well, because there's other foundations too that are going. So we could either do that in the campaign, and you'll have to go. And that's why I think this is kind of good and bad, because I know that like games that like to try to shove every other type of game into their game usually don't do that well. But again,
I think the episodic nature of this might actually correct what goes wrong with stuff like that. It'll allow us to think it through instead of just all at once throw it together.
Right, and a lot of other times, the thing that we have going for us, and it's good and bad, but the thing we have really going for us is that we don't really have a deadline, like a hard set. It's not like we're saying, September 8th, 2013, we're releasing this game. There's no deadline for that. Obviously, we want to release things, and we want to set personal deadlines as far as just to get work done. But we're not screwed if we can't. Yeah, it sucks with people are waiting for us to do things, but we're not really kind of stuck into a certain deadline. So that means we can actually take our time and do that. And like I said, yeah, the episodic thing I think is going to really help, because if we were going to try to do 100 SCPs before releasing it, I mean, that would take a really long time. It's 100 different missions, not 100 different missions, but that's 100 different SCPs and stuff. And that would just be such a pain in the ass to try to get that done, and then release it, and people, screaming, "Oh, it's vaporware," that kind of crap, because it just takes so long to do this kind of stuff. I mean, I don't want to fall into the Black Mesa, Black Mesa source thing where it's going on for like 7 years and still not released. Whereas this, we do the first 10 or so. Yeah, it will be short because it's only going to be 10. You're only going to go on like 2 missions or something. But we release that, people have something to play,
Mm.
and then we go back, and then once we release that, we start working on the next 10. And then once we get those 10 finished, we have a patch. That's what we got to also figure out, is how to make patches work.
Yeah.
So that it'll overwrite stuff without corrupting save files and stuff like that. That's going to be another technical thing that we'll have to worry about.
Yeah, that's gonna be a big thing. Cyrus is writing something. Let's see what he has to say.
Yeah. Make template for missions as probably not relatively easy. That, but I also, I agree with that. Okay, he said, I'm sorry, because people are going to be listening to this later, and they don't have a chat log. He said, we need to have a template for missions and SCPs to pump them out relatively easily. I agree to some degree, but I also don't want it to be to the point where, we're doing the same thing, just different SCP kind of thing either. So I don't want to kind of make a cookie cutter, but I do want to make, something so that it's,
Or
we're not making an in-game.
Maybe he's talking about a template before. Are you talking about a template for everyone or a template for just each one?
Oh, I think he said, oh no, just make it easy to put them in and then tweak them to hell. So I think he means something that is going to be universal as far as adding to the game. So when we have to patch it, it's not going to be a huge pain in the ass, maybe.
Yeah, I see.
But yeah, so you just make it easy to put them in and then tweak it. Yeah, and it will be because, like I said, with it being episodic, and there's no real definite end. I don't think the storyline itself is going to have any kind of
Ending.
I don't want to say it's not going to have an ending, but like I said, if we treat this more like a television show rather than a movie, or even if you treat it like a movie, treat it like a fucking trilogy of movies or something. I mean, something where sequels, because good stories can be told over episodes.
Yeah.
So we could still tell an overall story each time we release an update. Kind of add to it, as well as telling individual stories for each little SCP. But I'm not. Here I even wrote this. The main story when you wrote those bullet points.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I wrote down for story was that the main story is about the agent and his SCP abilities. Not sure what the overall goal will be since we're doing this in episodic fashion, but we don't really have to have a planned ending. Not every game has to be about a big bad guy or a princess to rescue or anything like that. And it could just be a guy doing his job to protect the world every day, is essentially what this guy's doing. So, to that degree, actually, every mission is each SCP is the villain. Each SCP he captures, especially the dangerous ones, are the actual villains of the game. And capturing them, you beat, the little mini-boss of each mission. So, there's no, it's not like playing a Call of Duty game where, the Russians have the fucking nuclear missile and that's the overall, stopping them, and you have to do these little missions along the way. There's no end goal.
I like that. I like that. It's like real life where each day you're playing each day. That's how we're going to set up each mission. Basically, the missions can take longer than a day. Are we going to have anything like that, or are we going to have it just a mission takes one day?
Well, I know I explained a little bit before we started recording, but I guess I'll do that whole thing again just because no one has heard it yet besides you and me. What I wrote down for the typical day for the agent is that he wakes up in the beginning of the day, and we'll even have something maybe. I don't know if we'll have to eventually make it so you can skip this because I'm sure people will get tired of seeing it over and over again. But that he wakes up in his room, and then he can roam around Site 19 as long as he wants. And there's no time limit, so we won't have like a time counter for that. But he will go to a certain NPC. Either that'll be the O5 that recruits / captures him, which I'll get into in a minute. Like I have the whole thing written up for how we should start, or an idea for how the game should start. But the guy who captures him and then it essentially turns him into an agent. He could be that guy, or it could be a main character from the website, or even just be like an agent that's higher ranking than him. Someone he goes to, and it'll be the same guy each time. we'll tell him, hey, this is the mission. Here it is. Give just a little bit of back. He's like, we have reports that, this is happening, and kind of give a little bit of information. So then, what'll happen for then is once he's ready to start the mission, the game will save right then. Throughout the entire mission, he will not. The player doesn't have any quick saves or any save points. At least that's the idea right now. I don't know if we'll change this or not. The reason I don't want to have save points during missions is I think when I play a game like Amnesia and it doesn't have quick save, I feel more scared because I don't just have, oh fuck, this thing scared me, now I'm dead, I get to start again. I have this, holy fuck, I just spent, all this time working on getting away from these assholes, and now I died, now I have to fucking do it all over again. So I know that's going to be a little bit frustrating, but I mean, that's kind of the penalty for dying. So I don't want people to feel that dying in the game is arbitrary. Same, I also don't want them to get frustrated too. So that's always something really hard to do. But so there's that. Once he beats the mission, once he captures the SCP, the game will save, and then he'll return back to the facility, and he can again roam around. There might be a little bit more overall story development, like once he returns, like stuff could have happened while he was gone, or because he caught this SCP, it's something. Or we could even have it where it'll save after he captures, but then once he returns, there's been a fucking containment breach. We could either have that being random too. It'd be really low though. It'd be like a 1% thing.
Yeah.
And then he's like, "Fuck! I just finished this mission. Now I have to help recapture this SCP and put him back in." So there's that, and then he can roam around, do whatever he wants, find Easter eggs, all that kind of stuff, whatever he wants to in the facility. And then once the player's ready to go to the next day / mission, then he goes back to his room, goes to his bed, hit eat or whatever for sleeping, and then the game will save again, and then again next day starts, waking up, and the whole process. So yeah, I figure we would only do one mission a day, because I mean, if you look at it this way, why in real life, I know it's weird to talk about real life when we're talking about SCP and all this crap, but in real life, if you had these kind of missions, I doubt like an agency's going to send you out more than once a day to capture shit like this,
Yeah.
So
well, I mean,
they're gonna.
The main question was, is it going to take longer than a day?
Well,
some of these.
We very may well. I mean, the day. I think time is just kind of relative when I just say day. I figure how about a sleep cycle maybe is a better way to put it. Where we could say that a person could wake up, start his mission. The mission could go on as far as the game goes, a couple days or weeks or whatever. And then once he gets back and goes back to sleep or something, that's when it saves again. We could also have save points with image. We could have multi-part things, because there could be an SCP that keeps evading them. They have to keep moving around and finding it, and it could save in between each time that happens.
Yeah.
I want there to be save points to where it doesn't get frustrating to die, but then again, it's also not cheap, where you're like, all right, I died, whatever, I just have to play, I just have to get back up to that point in a minute or two. I want there to be some sort of thing, something you're losing as far as, even if it's just your time, and that will make you more cautious and make you even more scared when it comes to scarier shit. So that was kind of that's my idea right now. Okay. Oh, there's a lot of things he's been saying. Here's some. Oh, the Victor guy's in.
Oh yes. Give him a call.
Yeah. See if I can add him.
And I'll give him a call. Just drag him up to the blue part.
Yeah, there you go. So he said. So yeah. Cyrus said. Does our SCP have a number, or should we have him labeled as unclassified? I think for now he's unclassified. Originally I was going to say unclassified because the 05 is kind of protecting him in a way. By like the 05, there's very, very few people actually are going to know that this guy's an SCP. Because when he died, I'll go into that. But very few people are going to know that he's an SCP, kind of for his own protection, because there could be other high-ranking guys that don't want him out there, that would rather just contain him forever. So this 05 that kind of had the foresight to say, hey, we could use this guy to capture other SCPs because he doesn't have as much of a consequence for dying, which we'll get into in a minute. That kind of thing. So we could have him unclassified. And yeah, he said, I think we need to add some side part of the game where you find out more about yourself. I agree. Like, either we find out why he has the power he has. That could be an ongoing, like, little side story of him. Like, while he's on these missions, he could stumble into something that, or he could be studying these SCPs to figure out what happened to him to make him the way he is. We could either say he was born this way or something happened to him. Like Dr. Bright wasn't always able to reincarnate into everybody, but he put on that necklace, and now anyone that puts on the necklace becomes Dr. Bright. So it could be something like that where he didn't start out that way. Something happened to him. Something like that, and maybe that's this 05 guy knows. Maybe the fucking agency did this to him. There could be all sorts of different possibilities. He also asked if he could lose gear as well.
I don't.
I don't know because the Foundation's supplying him.
Yeah.
So, they kind of have this kind of infinite money kind of thing. So I don't think he could lose gear in a mission.
Well, what would be pretty cool and kind of catastrophic for him is, what is that gun, the living gun? There might be a mission where he has to use the living gun, and something may be able to go wrong, and he could lose stuff like that. But I don't think, like, losing gear, like, what was it? Like destructible gear. Like, if you take too much damage, the gear dies or something like that. I don't think that would be good. It makes a lot of the games that implement that make it more tedious and less fun.
Yeah, I mean, I could see maybe having, like in a game like Halo, or not even Halo, in a game where you find, sorry, I burped while I was talking. That's always gross. In a game where you find armor, and like armor eventually degrades and no longer, I can see that maybe, like, say you have a bulletproof vest, you get shot too many times, it's no longer as effective, and then you take more damage. I could see that, but I don't think, like, actually completely losing gear is going to matter, because again, the agency is, you think of Site 19 and the Foundation and everything as this big entity that pretty much can fund anything if they can go capture these things. So I don't think, and I actually, to better explain this, I think I should kind of go into talking about what the SCP power is, because it'll make more sense this way. Basically, the whole idea was that the agent himself, or the player, he's an SCP himself. The SCP power he has is when he dies, it reverts back to 12 a.m. earlier that day. Think of the movie Groundhog Day. Whenever Bill Murray tried to kill himself, he would just wake back up, and no one would be any wiser of it. Well, that's kind of where this guy is, except it's not the same day repeating. I mean, if he lives through the day, it continues the next day. But if he dies in the day, he wakes back up the next morning. No one else even knows that he died, and anything that happened that day hasn't happened yet. And it doesn't necessarily happen the same exact way either. So we're not talking about, like, say, you can't, like, say we had a fucking casino at the facility and he lost all of his money in blackjack. Doesn't mean he's going to have the same exact hands again. So we could kind of do like a fucking string theory or whatever we want to do with time travel and stuff, because this isn't really time travel. This is actually resetting time. So you will not get the same possibilities every single time just because you died and restarted again. There's still, things can still change. But that's kind of how we're explaining the loading and saving system. So when you die in a mission, instead of kind of killing the immersion and saying, all right, reloading, when you die, instead of saying, game over, load, it's just going to go straight to him waking up again in his bed. Unless, like I said, we had a save point and it'll go back to that.
I think what would be pretty cool to add is, when he dies, if you die in a mission and you go right back to, say, waking up at 12 a.m.,
right,
you would have to...
Or, well, you wouldn't wake up at 12, but yeah, I mean, that's... Yeah, I know what you mean.
What would be nice would be whoever's working on a model for this character, he would come up maybe screaming or something. That would be pretty...
Yeah, something. And also, though, I was talking about the model. I don't know that we're ever going to see him. Maybe in a mirror, but I figured the whole thing would be first person as far as immersion goes.
Yeah.
Because...
Well, I mean, when I'm talking about model for the character, I mean
Mhm.
the scripted the scripted sequences for his body when he
Okay, so you'll see like your arm up in the
yeah,
like you would in
maybe
real life.
rubbing across your face or something like that,
Yeah.
or him clenching over maybe in the fetal position for a short while, then getting up, stuff like that.
Victor said, even though the player's an SCP and an agent, I think we should keep the player feeling disadvantaged. Even though since he's fighting other SCPs, he probably probably more powerful and maybe keep his gear limited at first. Yes and no. I mean, there's going to be some SCPs where gear is completely fucking useless, like the hard to kill lizard. You
Yeah,
know,
I was gonna say that one. Or
he's impossible to kill. So any gun you have is not going to work. So trying to capture him is going to be extremely difficult. Um, to the point where we might have to have some sort of thing where he could knock him into a vat of acid or something. Where he could kill him enough so that they can capture the body and take it back to the Site 19.
or even maybe a puzzle element and having to trick him into some kind of containment.
Yeah, so something. I mean, and we haven't even thought about 682 yet as far as how we're gonna even capture him, because how the fuck you can't kill him. Nothing can kill him, and he's super powerful and everything like that. So, but he can be hurt, and we know that. So, maybe he could find some way to knock him into a vat of fucking lava or something, and then they take that back to the facility, something like that. But so he even though he's essentially the as far as death goes, our agent is immortal, not for old age, but for being physically killed. He is immortal. However, anything he does during the day is lost when he dies. So there is and isn't a disadvantage. It's not like he can go do a bunch of stuff, die, and then that stuff is done again. He has to do it all over again. The advantage, obviously, is that he can't die. So that's how we explain the loading and saving, because when you're playing a game, the game doesn't erase itself when you die.
Victor has a good way to put it. It's like a less hardcore roguelike game. Roguelike game is what, let's say, Binding of Isaac. Every time you die, you start over completely from the start of the game.
Like fucking
that's
old school Mario.
That's exactly how this game would be. Is from when you start the mission, it would be it would go you would go through and do it, but if you do die, like Khad said, it's going to be everything's going to be unscripted. We'll try it to be as unscripted as we could possibly do with our limited skills that we have right now, and so every time you do restart, it's the same thing you're trying to do, but different things are happening. Like,
yeah. Well, because we'll have some sort of AI, and I'm not going to promise revolutionary AI or anything, just because, like he said, we're not, we're not professionals or anything like that. This is a bunch of, we're completely amateurs at what we're doing. At least talking about myself. I mean, I'm not a professional level editor or anything like that.
yeah.
So, just get off the rails linear. Both actually, because the missions are going to feel a little bit more linear, but obviously we can have different ways to accomplish the same thing. So again, like capturing 682. Did I say that number right? Yeah, 682. There could be multiple ways to capture him, but I mean, it's up to you to kind of figure out which ways to do it in. So like, say you die trying one way, and you decide, well, I'm going to try something else this time. So you kind of, by being able to restart when you die, you kind of learn from your mistakes. Also, and I know some people are like, holy shit, I hate the games that when you die, you start all over. And again, we're just saying we're not starting the whole game over, just the missions over. The missions, I mean, we're going to have as many SCPs as we can make. We're just going to keep doing it until we stop, I guess. Or until we ever get to the end, which I don't think there ever will be an end. But, fuck, I completely just lost concentration of what I was talking about.
Well,
went out of my brain.
Yeah. While you think of that, I have something. I like the idea of what you were saying.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Oh, you got it. Go ahead. So you don't.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that the missions aren't gonna be super long. At least that's not the intention. Most of the missions are probably gonna be, I'm gonna say short, but they're gonna because there's gonna be so many of them. It's not gonna be like you're gonna be playing for 3 hours in a single mission, die at the very end, and have to do 3 hours all over again. it's not going to be that bad. And if we have a mission that's ever that long, we will try to find some places to kind of quick save in between, or have save points.
Yeah.
We still have to figure out something as far as immersion. I always say that word wrong, but as far as to keep it immersive, so that maybe there's some sort of SCP that he finds that works with him to quick save or something, that can pause a time, and something like that. There's so many SCPs that we can choose from to kind of benefit. I mean, we could even have at some point that the agent is going to be using other SCPs to help capture other SCPs. So and he may not know that at first. So you may go on a mission to go capture an SCP, and then go, wait a minute, and go back and figure out that you need to take, like, you might die trying to capture him, and then you might go, I need SCP 113 to capture this guy. And so you go to 113, you figure out how you're going to, who you have to kind of get that from, and then bring it back and bring it with you to help capture another SCP. So we could definitely do something like that. And sorry, you were going to say something.
Yeah, I like the what you're saying. Have the kind of linear, but not linear, where you can choose, like you were saying, with the hard to kill lizard. You can have maybe one way you can do it, capture it like a puzzle way, where you could trick them into going somewhere, or where you have a more upfront way where you can actually do maybe maybe shoot a rocket at him and, like you said, knock him in a vat of acid or lava to make him go into a comatose state. But I think the menu system that we're doing would be pretty good with kind of a non-linear way, since that would actually be a nice it would fit nicely in it, where in the menu you get to you basically, I'll restart for Victor. What we're going to have is each day, as soon as you load the game, what you're going to have is, instead of going to play game, options, stuff like that, we're going to have it go right into the game. It's going to look like you just woke up, and I have a kind of like a fade in or a eyes opening kind of a transition, and then that is the menu where you walk around. If you walk up to your what is it, the handler, the O5 guy, and you take the mission from him, or you can go around, check out the FCPs, or do what we're calling like the D level research, where that would be where you actually get to watch D level people go in and do the experiments with the ACPs, and then you also get to walk around and maybe just trigger randomly throughout even the menu would trigger some kind of a containment breach, but you can also trigger the containment breach yourselves, and that would be kind of non-linear to the linear side of the missions. So even though we won't have, we'll release the first part where have 10 SCPs now, yeah, pretty much. But even though you're not in the game and you probably finished the missions, you still will be actually play the game by watching the interactions with the D level and doing the containment breach.
Yeah, kind of, to expand what you're saying, because Victor said, so when you're not in missions, you're free roam through Site. Yeah, like I said, when you first wake up, you have free roam to go all the way through Site 19. Site 18 is like he's trying to say is, it's kind of like a menu where the different things in Site 19 are kind of the different parts of the game. Though I also wanted to, and we could just stay with that. The other suggestion was that before you resume your game, we would have a profile system, because say two people who want to play the game but they only have one computer kind of thing, they I don't want to play on his agent, he wants to play on my agent, that kind of thing, so they can make a different profile. And this is kind of the least immersive part, is when you very first start up the game, you can it'll say load profile, create profile, or resume from last save, and that's all you get pretty much.
Well, we can do how have you played Cry of Fear?
I can't say I have.
And Amnesia.
I played Amnesia, yeah.
You know how it loads up? You have the option outside
and that's
of the game.
Right, it's a profile thing.
Yeah, we can have that for it. So when it loads up, it asks you which save you want to do, and then that's just like the options for it. You can actually edit the resolution and stuff like that, and then right when you click go, it starts the game. But that won't be actually the game. So the immersion part would still be there. We just have, like you said, the profile, but it's actually outside of the game. It's still
Right.
when you can see. It's still with the Windows bar everywhere. You can still see your background. The game has yet to start. It's just the profile manager.
Yeah. The only thing I'd want to do from there, it's almost going to be like a sacrifice. Is have the escape key functionable in the sense that for options, because
Yeah.
if I'm in a game and I want to change the quality resolution, I don't necessarily want to kick myself all the way out of the game to do that. So that kind of stuff might be in there. But yeah, as far as like saving and stuff, you're not going to be able to hit F5 to quick save or anything like that. And yeah, I'm trying to figure out how we would make it story wise, how you're going to trigger these containment breaches, because I was thinking about just having it again back in that menu. You could maybe, like you said before the game even loads, have maybe different things. Like you could either do campaign, which is where everything 19 is that menu, or maybe like a drop down menu. You could have campaign mode, which is the main part of the game, or you could have SCP research mode, where you could look at every single, regardless if you've seen it in the campaign mode or not. I want to have it so that there's like kind of almost like the original idea that I pitched just at the beginning, of your virtual museum almost, where you can select what SCPs you want to see. Either you could see a little model of them, read the information about them, and you can see D-level people interact with them. And then a containment breach mode where you can pick maybe up to 5 SCPs that could all do a containment breach at the same time if you wanted, or just one at a time, or whatever. And like I said before, that list is going to be a little bit shorter because the skeleton key isn't going to break itself out. But like you said earlier, maybe someone breaks in or an agent goes rogue and tries to steal it.
Yeah. Well, I like that idea of having the virtual museum for him. We can have the two options, but I think the containment breach should stay contained within the menu, because it's still easily axed. Well, no, I don't know. The containment breach, because all outside, when you're talking about outside of the game, all of them are unlocked for the museum and I see what you're talking about now.
Yeah, so
if they
because
don't want to follow
it's
the
gonna
campaign,
be hard.
Yeah,
Because if you don't even care about the campaign or anything, you can still look at all the SCPs if you want to in the research mode, and then fucking watch D-level people get slaughtered by them if that's what you want to do. Or you can, if you are purely into like more of the action stuff. Though it's not all necessarily the action, because some stuff is just gonna be really creepy and shit as far as containment breaches go. But if you just want to work on containment breach stuff, that's all you have to do. But the campaign will have all of that stuff. But the containment breach thing, I think it's going to be really hard to try to explain why your agent would purposely cause a containment breach. So I almost, but there will still be containment breaches. Like I said, real low percentage, like maybe 1% of the time, when either you're roaming around. There could be like maybe at one time per when you're roaming around, there could be a containment check. And if it hits that 1%, then bam, containment breach while you're just happen to be roaming. You could be fucking dicking around on a treadmill in the training room, and all of a sudden, you got the sirens and the red light going. And you're like, oh fuck, I gotta go.
Yeah.
Help this. So we want containment breaches to be like they would be in realistically, is they would be random.
Mm-hmm.
So you could be roaming around Site 19 again. Like I said, there could be a check. I don't know when we would do the check. Maybe we'd have like a countdown timer that would be random.
I would have, basically what I would do is, programming wise, I'd have a thread running in the background at all times. Thread is like a separate program, and all it's doing is say, I might have it to be, this is just a simplistic way, I'm not sure if I'm going to make it any more difficult, but have a number, what chance of containment breach do we want? Do we want 1 in a million, 1 in 100,000, 1 in...
Right, whatever, that could be random too.
And it would pick the number that it is set to pick, and it would randomly choose until it hits that number. And I would do 1 in maybe 500,000, and then have a random number picked, and then have for each each day, and then have the random number generator see if that number has been picked. If that number has been picked, then trigger the containment breach.
Right, and then if like say we're playing it and we never ever find a containment breach, then we just lower the number so
Yeah.
that it's a little bit more often. And we could also do a containment breach check where we have that, but we have it run it every 5 minutes or so.
Yeah.
So you could be roaming around or 10 minutes or whatever. You'd be roaming around for 10 minutes. Well, the first when the first 10 minutes pass, well, bam, now we're gonna do a check. We'll have that same random number. We'll run the generator. If it matches, containment breach. If not, continue on. Next 10 minutes again, and next 10 minutes again. So, I mean, you could sit there, I guess, if you want to, for like half an hour and see if you get, you'll have 3 chances of getting a containment breach. And again, it could happen at any time. It doesn't have to be the 10 minutes necessarily.
I actually like this. Cyrus just said maybe during one of the missions you can get a call in.
Yeah, that would be. We'd have to figure that out though, because
I think that would be one of the cases that we would have to script it.
yeah, we'd have to script it where maybe like finally you get a SCP that's maybe safe. It's not like a really hard, difficult one to go get, and then like halfway through it, you get a call back in to come back and fight off Serpent's Hand.
That would
and
make it actually pretty interesting for that. And then you can go back, pick it up, and pretty easy.
And then Victor said, taking notes here, maybe we can get these ideas. Yeah, these are just ideas that we've come up with. None of what we're saying tonight is necessarily 100% going to be in the game or how the game's going to be, but these are just kind of ideas in the direction we're going with. I want to use a lot of these ideas, but we might be doing this and we might go, holy shit, we can't implement this, it's too difficult, or holy crap, this doesn't match with this and we have to drop it. I mean, just like any project, you're going to find stuff that you want to do, but you just can't. For instance, when we first release these first 10, I highly doubt we will have the containment breach mode and the virtual museum done by the time we release like the first 10 SCPs, just because we want to get the first little bit of the game out, and then we'll work on the virtual museum and the containment breach stuff. And that might always be behind. We might have 20 or 30 SCPs in the campaign mode, but only 10 of them are in the virtual museum, and only 5 of them are in the breach mode, just because, number one, you're not going to have as many things breaching, because not everything is in danger of a containment breach. And then, number two, it's going to take, we actually have to code and work out what these things do when they break out. So it's going to take even more work to do that. So all these things aren't going to, once we first release the first build of it, be in the game. This is just kind of where we want to end up eventually.
Yeah.
And then let's see. Okay, do you want me to talk about like what happens before you even get to Site 19? That idea I had?
Yeah,
okay. I don't know if you had anything else before I went into that, but
no.
Before the game starts, when you very, very first start the game, number one, before I get into that, I don't know if we're going to have a basic character that, like Gordon Freeman or something, where it's just one guy, or if we're going to have like either simple or complex character customization. I have no idea. I don't know how difficult character customization is as a coding standpoint, or we could just have different models. We have a male and female of each, and then just have a race, like, you could be Caucasian or Asian or black or whatever,
Well, since we're not really seeing him, it's no third person, I think that would allow
Right.
us to have less of a character.
The only thing I can think of is like your forearms, when you
Yeah.
see the color of your skin or whatever, and maybe how people interact with you if you're male or female,
Yeah.
Kind of thing. If we have mirrors, because there might be mirrors in the bathroom, so you might see your character that way.
Well, I would like a character
mirrors are a pain in the ass.
model, so that we can have teasers of what he looks like, stuff like that, or what she looks like.
Yeah, so I figure at least give a little bit of customization, just for people who that want to be always has to be a white guy in these, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
someone doesn't want to be a white guy or a white female or a black guy or a black, you just want to be maybe what you are in real life. So I want to have something like that. It doesn't have to be really complex as far as going into making character customizations and choosing your hairstyle and all that crap, but just like real simple things as far as that goes. But then after you kind of settle with that, you said you wanted to try to do something as far as the name goes, where it would take from your...
Yeah, I don't know if Unreal can do that. I know they allow for you to do calls from using the driver they have incorporating the newest release, that you can do a C++ call from within the Unreal script. So I'll maybe be able to do that, but what I would like to do is, everybody on Windows has their own name that's built
Mhm.
into it. What would be interesting is, as you were, because you haven't even talked about what you wanted the pre. You haven't even talked about the what you wanted him to be when he wanted him to be captured yet.
No,
But
that's what I was gonna get into. I was just talking about the name, like
yeah,
character creation.
well, when he's going to talk about the name, how he's going to get captured. Say it starts off with them walking up to the house or whatever, or the way that Cade is about to say. But you can see on maybe the paper, maybe it has like a pan over on the paper, which it has the actual user account's name. There's a couple games that already do this. There's a hack version of Pokemon that actually goes into your computer and actually can find your user account name. So there's a couple games that already do this. There are a couple of horror games that actually do this. So it's possible, but I'm not sure if it's possible through Unreal Script. But that would be pretty interesting. What I would do is say if somebody has a name that's administrator, or if they have a nickname or something, that I would cross-check it with a reference, and then what would happen is I would if it doesn't seem to be an actual name or a noticeable nickname, I would just have it either as redacted or blacked out on the paper.
Yeah, the only issue that I thought about that we would run into with that as well is when you create your profile. See, if I'm playing on my friend's computer, now I'm his name,
Yeah.
So that's the only issue I'd run into there. So that's the only thing I would say why we wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
Because and it's gonna be a shit ton easier just to let someone just type in whatever name they want to.
Yeah.
And it's not gonna matter because every time they talk to you, they're not gonna
Be
say your name. It's gonna be blacked out, all that kind of stuff. It's just kind of what you're gonna save your profile name as. But the kind of vision I have is all the cinematics are going to be in first person as far as the agent goes.
Mm-hmm.
At least that's in my mind. And right before I talk about this, there are some questions. Cyrus asks, would some of the captures be ridiculously easy? Walk in, find the SCP, put it in the case, and leave. That's where I was kind of going on about where you would go to capture an SCP while you were doing that. Other SCPs would be being captured. So some of the ones that are really easy to get, or some that just wouldn't really be that entertaining or fun, we're not going to do. We're just going to assume that another agent got it, because realistically, one agent isn't going to capture every single SCP for the Foundation. Why would they have other agents if one guy could do it? So
I think because of his ability, he would be sent on the more dangerous
right,
missions.
right. Since they know, or at least your handler knows that when you die, you don't truly die. Yeah, they're gonna send you on shit like the Unkillable Lizard or 173 or something like that, the ones that kill people. Because yeah, going to the Skeleton Key is kind of a waste of his talents. Now there is, like I said, there could be a time where you're gonna go get something simple. They're like, well, this is all we got for you. Here, just go grab the Skeleton Key. Halfway through it, you get called to come back because there's been a break-in or a containment breach or whatever. Something like that. And they were talking about also the character. So far, Victor and Cyrus say just to keep it really simple and maybe have their arms covered up. I mean, we could do something like that, or we could just pick, the stereotypical, we'll just do a white guy, kind of thing, and just go with that.
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyway, yeah. So before you cite 19, this is just what I have written down. This can change, whatever. All of it's in first person. So you're gonna wake up in your apartment. Your eye, you're gonna have like little either have an eyeball opening or have like a fade in kind of thing, kind of groggy and stuff, and you don't have control of it. This is going to be kind of scripted right now. You wake in your apartment and you can hear someone trying to break into the door, which you can see the door either like down the hallway or something. As the player's getting out of bed, again, this is all scripted, SCP agents bust down the door and they shoot like a tranq dart at him and missing him. Then the camera kind of swivels over to see the tranq dart stuck in the wall, and then swivels back, and then now you have control over your character. So that's going to give you a sense of these guys are here to take me for whatever reason. Now at this point, you're going to be trying to run away from these guys. You can try to fight them, but they're going. You can try to fight. They're never going to try to kill you In fact, I said he can try to run away. If he dies, he will wake back up and start all over again. So this is going to kind of give you an idea. If you haven't listened to this audio or whatever, if you haven't, then you're not listening to this. But someone who hasn't listened to any of this or has no idea about the game, when they die trying to run away and they wake back up, and they might go, oh, that's interesting, and they might kind of figure out that that's their power. If not, then it'll be told to them later. But so he could be running. Well, say you're gonna have different options of trying to get away. You're in an apartment up in a skyscraper or something. You jump out the window. You're gonna fall to your death. You're gonna wake back up in your bed. The agents themselves that are trying to get you are not going to kill you because they've been instructed not to, because the guy sending them to you knows that if they kill you, it's just going to start over again. So they're just using trank guns and stuff like that. If you run at them to try to attack them, they're just going to trank you, and that's the end of the chase. So this is kind of maybe people can find how long they can stay away from them, but eventually there is going to be an ending point to get to the very end of the chase sequence, if you want to call it. This part will be a little bit linear. So when you get there, you're going to get tranked. Your vision's going to get all blurry, maybe stumble around, and then fade to black. When you wake back up, you're going to be strapped down to a metal table with kind of like metal automated kind of straps on your legs and arms. Then your handler, who could be like a high-ranking O5, will come in, explain why you were captured, explain they know about your power. He may not tell you why, and again, this is something we could further develop in the story of why they know or how this guy knows you have this ability. And we're assuming that the player up until this day didn't know because he hadn't died yet. And he said that he's also going to tell him that we kept you unconscious for 48 hours, knowing that at 12 a.m. you'll wake up. So if you try to kill yourself to return to your apartment, it's not going to work. And then so either way, the O5 is going to explain that if you agree to it, and we're going to have to figure out a way to kind of signify that the player is going to agree to work for the Foundation, either by, like he says, here's a tracking chip that we want to have inside you. We could have put it into you ourselves, but to further, know that you're going to work with us, go ahead and inject this tracking chip into yourself, and we'll know that, you're going to you agree. Put that on a table nearby. The O5 is going to leave. Once he leaves, the door is going to shut and it won't be able to be opened. You're going to be released from that bed thing with the straps or whatever. And even in the room, we could have different little ways that he could creatively try to figure out how to kill himself, I guess, if he didn't believe the O5. Like, he's trying to call his bluff, which he's not bluffing. But you could, maybe figure out a way to pry the wall, like there could be wall outlets, and you can pry those open and electrocute yourself or something. But then once you do, you'll just wake up back on the table and have to go through the whole sequence again. So essentially, we're kind of allowing the player to not agree, but eventually he will have to in order to continue playing the game. Grab the syringe, eject it to himself, and then he'll be released from the room, and then that's when the game really will start. And then when he opens it, he can roam Site 19, and then we kind of start our pattern of roaming around, eventually go get your mission, and continue on. So the player could even begrudgingly do this. Like, he doesn't want to be an agent. This is all up to the player, how he wants to play the guy, but he could just not even want to be an agent, but he's kind of forced in this situation. And that's another kind of story thing we can flesh out. Maybe have a side thing where the player can try to figure out how to escape. Obviously, if he did, then it would end the game. So, that's just a whole lot of stuff that we have to kind of figure out. So.
Victor said, so it may have some RP elements in it. Yes and no. We may be able to do that, but I'm not sure. I don't think roleplay mixed with what we want to do would work. About the choices. Well, yeah, especially if you're going into what Khad was talking about last time, or I think it was before y'all joined. We may go into him being able to control, or not control, but work with other people. So.
Oh yeah, I could. Yeah, okay.
You might have some Mass Effect style choices in it, but I'm not sure about any RP elements with him. Per se.
Yeah, I don't know if he means like I know what he means by RP. I don't think he means RPG stuff where you're leveling up or anything like that. I don't think.
So just choices.
Yeah, I think he just means like choices. So you could kind of play the game. Maybe we could have like a way where you're making choices. You could be trying to figure out how to escape.
Or
but ultimately, maybe you won't.
now, I did just recently get into the SCP lore. Now, you were talking about what was the other? What was the offshoots? Other. What was the snake? What's the snake thing?
The snake.
The serpent's hand. Is that like the enemy of the Foundation?
Again, I pretty much just recently got into this and pitched this idea.
Okay, it's one of the enemies.
Yeah.
Well, maybe now it's going to be hard because we're doing the updates. I'm not sure how we can do this, but it is a possibility we could do choices that maybe we can have part of it branch off later on in the game where your choices may indefinitely lead to either sticking with the Foundation or going to one of the enemies.
Yeah, the only issue with that, again, is since we're making this game about SCP, is we don't know really about a lot of the other foundations. So I almost want to kind of keep it, at least keep the atmosphere, not atmosphere, but keep the setting at Site 19. So at most, maybe you could be like a double agent. You'll still work at Site 19, but be selling secrets. I mean, who knows? That's gonna kind of stuff that
we would
just
decide
later in development, kind of
further
stuff.
down the line.
And this is he also said, Victor also said, I was thinking since the SCP Foundation itself is very gray in the moral area, we could reflect it in the game, give a very moral decision along the way. I agree.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, they take prisoners, promise them that they're gonna get out, and essentially they're all gonna die. But it's for the greater understanding of these SCPs, or to keep the chocolate fountain one that needs to always be fed, and so they feed these D level people to it all the time. Otherwise, it gets out of control. There's gonna be stuff good and bad because you are saving the world from these SCPs, but at the same time, the Foundation does do some things that are extremely questionable. So. Yeah, there's probably gonna be a lot of that kind of stuff. To further elaborate on what he was talking about with the team things, I was thinking some of these things, especially like again the Unkillable Lizard, they would not send one agent for that. They're gonna send a team of agents. So in some of these missions, you might be teamed up, and this is where like the game, each mission can be a different type of game style, which because these missions are. I don't want to say they're secular or separate from the original game, but we could have as many game styles as we really want. One mission could be really heavy on puzzle solving, depending on that SCP. Another mission could be more like a first-person shooter, blazing through the hallways, shooting shit up, action pace, kind of stuff. And then one could be scary as fuck, where none of your weapons work, or they get disintegrated something, you don't even have weapons, and you're scared out of your mind, and you still have to capture this thing. Like I said before, this in a game like Amnesia, all you're doing is running away from the monsters, essentially, trying not to be seen by them. In this game, you're doing that, but at the same time, you have to figure out how to capture this monster. That's what you're there for, and you can't leave until this fucker's captured. So you're scared shitless of this thing, trying to hide from it, but at the same time, you have to confront it. So you're kind of confronting your own fears in this game, trying to capture this thing. At the same time, it'll fucking kill you, and it's... So, yeah, it's going to be really... That's going to be really, really cool. Yeah, Cyrus said having to capture 173 is going to be a bitch. It is, because... and this could be a thing where they send multiple agents, and you're going to have to maybe have a little mini game with the blinking. Who knows? I mean, because we're making it number one episodic, and number two separating the game into separate missions per each SCP, we have kind of a freedom to treat each individual SCP as its own individual little game, kind of in the same style and same artwork and the same level design and that kind of stuff, but could be its own style. Now, I don't want to be so complicated to where you're learning how to play a new game over and over again, but So it's obviously gonna be limited to either like a first-person shooter, a survival horror, and we could mix some too. It could start out as a first-person shooter, like Fear, where it has elements of first-person shooter stuff and being scared all the time. So there's a whole lot of flexibility with this because all the SCPs do tons of different shit. And because they do that, we have to handle each of them differently as far as each mission goes, and that's why it's going to take a long time for us to do these kind of things. But again, that's why we're releasing them as we make them. If you want a really good example of a game that got really successful off of that model, look at Minecraft.
Yeah.
I mean, it started out, where it is now is way further than when it started out, but people were allowed to play it as it was being developed. And that's what we want to do because, again, that's going to get rid of any of that vaporware kind of rumors or vaporware label because we have something released. It's officially not vaporware. It's just a matter of getting updates for it. So,
Yeah.
So we want to release stuff. And again, I don't know timetables. I can't give anyone timetables because even between updates, we don't know if we get 5 SCPs that are all really in-depth and really difficult, that's going to take longer to release than some. And some updates might not touch the campaign. Some updates might purely be for the containment breach mode, or some might be purely for the virtual museum. It just kind of depends on maybe what we want to work on or what we think is important to the game as far as updating. And obviously updates are going to include bug fixes and stuff too. And as we go along, the great thing about this is while people are playing it, they are our beta testers or our quality assurance. They're going to be playing this game. They're going to go, hey, SCP, trying to capture SCP-006. I got stuck in this wall, and then we have to go back and go, oh, okay, this is why that happened. And we fix it, and then the next update, we patch it in, or we could have small patches that patch that kind of thing, and say, here's the update, download this. So that's always nice too, being able to do that. And then we also explained that we wanted to add Easter eggs into the game, kind of have little fun things. One example being that adds nothing to the actual gameplay except for the fact that it's kind of a neat little quirky thing. You could go to like the training room and run on the fucking treadmill if you want or something, or like there might be an arcade or like in one of the entertainment rooms, it could be a little arcade game that's playable, or stuff like that. But we won't announce those. So what we'll do is when we make a like a patch or an update, we say 5 secret updates, and that's all we'll say. And so we'll just tell you how many things we added that are like Easter eggs that you have to find, and it'll be kind of fun seeing people go through and find them and go, oh fuck, I found one of them, it was this, and all that kind of stuff. And
Secret Fridays.
Yeah, or Office, someone left Reddit open. Yeah, we could have Easter eggs like that where someone, you walk by someone and they're sitting there browsing Reddit instead of working on something, an NPC or something like that. So there's that. I was just see if there's anything else. Artistic style, like you said, I kind of am stuck with wanting to make this look realistic.
Yeah.
Because it's easier to make that scary.
Now, how are we gonna do Site-19? We talked about it before, but let's talk about it a little right now. Do we want to do Site-19 a little medical feel, very clean, very
I think
not
so.
futuristic, but more minimalistic in a sense?
The first thing I thought of when kind of the design of Site-19 came into my head was if you've ever seen where they manufacture processors and how everything's like all the floors and walls are white and everything's really clean, that kind of thing, like Intel, yeah. Or if you've ever seen the movie Repo, I think, where at some point through the movie they're trying to find their way into like the place where they're making artificial organs, and there's a room they walk in and it's just completely white, really clean.
Mm-hmm. Now, do you want it white or do you want it like silver?
I'm thinking white. I mean, I'm thinking like something really clean, something really, like you said, not necessarily futuristic, but more of like a medical feel to it, more of like a research lab feel to it, which is what it is. It's not going to be dark and dang. I mean, why would they make even when you go down to the Keter levels, it's not going to be like some dungeon. It's going to still look like a research lab because it doesn't make any sense.
It is technically a research lab.
Yeah, so
making it look dark and dreary wouldn't make sense. real
It
life.
would even when you're going down to the dangerous SCPs down the bottom. Yeah, there's going to be like steel doors that are really reinforced and stuff like that, and that's going to be a little bit different. But it's not going to be like light bulbs are going to be flickering and stuff. That kind of stuff, that scary, dreary looking stuff. That's the stuff we're going to be saving for the missions when you're going to go capture these SCPs that are inside of those kind of areas where it's all fucking dark and there's something hiding in the shadow. That's on the missions. When you go to the Foundation is almost like a safe haven in a little bit, but obviously containment breaches can still happen, and that kind of stuff. But it's almost your safe area. It's like your town inside of a game where you can kind of feel reasonably safe to relax and kind of look at cool stuff and look at the SCPs and stuff like that right after you've done like the stressful mission.
You can kind of take it as if you've played Disgaea. If you've where Disgaea or Monster Hunter, where you are in a hub and then you just go through missions from that hub. So the hub is a safe area, but like he's saying, we're gonna have a containment breach.
Yeah, it's not completely safe. You can still die in Site 19. I mean, we could probably make it so you can. I mean, part of the thing of this high-ranking 05 that recruited you and turned you into an agent, part of his whole deal could be that he's, he gives you or has a way to where you have complete access to all the SCPs, and the reasoning behind that would be you're going out there to try to capture some of the most dangerous ones. You should know how the ones that we captured act, so that you're not going to get out there and be like, holy crap, I've never seen anything like that. It's sort of almost to desensitize you in a way, so that you do better at your job. That's kind of the story-wise how I'm trying to explain it anyway. If we could change that out as well, but that way the player doesn't feel like he doesn't get to see everything. And we could even have at some point, maybe there's going to be some SCP that something maybe that's related to why he's an SCP that even he doesn't have access to, and he's gonna. One of the side quests, which will be completely optional, is he has to figure out a way to bypass the security to go to investigate this, and also without getting caught. So there's all. I mean, like I said, there's so many things we can do, and we don't have to think of all of the things to smash in there in one game before we release it. We could have an idea that we save for 5 or 6 updates and finally put it in then. Depending on where the story goes. And like I said, by being episodic, we're treating this more like a TV show than like a movie. I mean, or like one story. We're treating this as, it's one story, but there's plenty of TV shows that are really entertaining and great and have good stories. And they don't have a definite ending in sight. And that's kind of where this game is. So there's no prime evil that you're going to be fighting. It's just, like you said, going to work day at a time. And just doing your job, and your job just happens to be saving the world. So every day is that big fucking adventure. So, yeah, I mean that's the only other ideas I had written down is like right after you are turned into an agent, we could have training rooms for the agents, and that could serve as an optional tutorial area to kind of which would go over every type of gameplay element that could possibly come up. So there could be like a firing range where you could practice shooting. There could be, a stealth range where you're practicing sneaking around, and you could be neutralizing other agents, or even neutralizing. Here's another moral thing. They could have a thing set up for agents, and you have D level personnel, like standing around, and they have to stealth through, and you have a choice if you want to kill these guys or just knock them out. They don't really care because these D-level guys are going to die anyway. So they're using them to train the agents. I don't think that's ever been discussed in the SCP, website or anything like that. But fuck it, I mean, we could take those kind of liberties. Because I can imagine them doing that.
Right.
So there's that. And then, the HUD. Did we talk about that?
I don't think we talked about that yet.
Yeah.
Cyrus, real quick, has a question. He says, talk to me about the layout of the building. Can I get some sketches?
Right now, we have like very simple sketches. The idea I have in mind is you have the lobby. Okay, so we have two ideas kind of going up right now. One is that the lobby and even a little city built around the main building, which is all enclosed and could even be like heavily secured, like Area 51 or something, where no one's allowed to go, like in the middle of the fucking desert or something. where there's a city. Either way, it's going to be like a city, but where that stuff's above ground, and then you go take an elevator, and then that when it takes you down to the SCPs, where you would go to the safe level, then underneath the safe level, and it's not going to be directly underneath. So you go like say go 100 feet underground, get to the safe level, then go 200 more feet to get to the elucid, or I don't know if I'm saying that right, and then go 500 more feet to get to the Keter objects. So that's kind of the idea I had, where the more dangerous SCPs will be deeper underground, because if they get a containment breach, not only do they have to get out of where they're at, but they have to somehow get up the elevator shaft all the way up to the top of, and to get out. So that's kind of what I thought, the way that it would be logically set up.
So right now, what we are going to do for the first release of it, we're going to have pretty much maybe just one room, just the teaser release. But yeah, it's going to be pretty huge. Think of a big city. Think of Resident Evil, Raccoon City, how it was the mansion, and then underneath you had all these stuff in. Am I thinking about that correctly? I'm not sure. It's been a while since I played that. But think of a city, and then think of maybe in the middle of the city.
Like Raccoon City, and how like the whole complex is like underneath Raccoon City.
Yes.
Where the zombies come out. Yeah, I know what you mean.
Have a huge complex.
Umbrella Corporation.
But that whole part that got nuked, that would be basically the whole Site-19 actually. Except this is in some obscure place, but the city is either closed off, kind of. You really don't know it's there. It's not on any map or anything like that, but it's just going to be pretty huge. And as updates go on, maybe we can have them be able to leave the Site-19 to go out into the cities, or like the buildings of the other cities. But basically, we do want it the big city wise, but I would like the main part to be like somewhat of a hotel. You ever see maybe you ever go down to like a huge city in your town, and you see the nice big banks that have all those huge concrete like walls with the big huge windows, kind of something like that, and then underneath something massive.
See, and I was either thinking that, or so that was one idea. The idea that I was originally running with is that everything is underground. That everything that, that kind of, not stereotypical necessarily, but that old, there's a shack in the middle of the desert that no one bothers, and actually, oh crap, it's a secret government facility underneath there. That was what I was thinking of, where even the lobby and the offices are underground. But not only that, but that first layer where I'm making that lobby would also have the city part to it. So you would have housing units underground, connected to the actual lobby and everything like that. So we would have to make all sorts of stuff, because it's a city, essentially, because these researchers and these agents, the kind of work that they're doing isn't going to really lend them to go out and live a regular life. They have to kind of stay there at the facility.
Yeah, but realistically wise, can we have it in a way so now still pertaining to your idea where everything's underground, maybe just a little shack in the middle of nowhere? Can we still have it in a way that it is still a part of the facility, but far away, that it would realistically be placed? Because if there is a containment breach, they're having them so close to where they're held, would it necessarily be smart, realistically thinking?
It wouldn't, but then we're getting back to that moral gray area kind of thing, where if there was a containment breach bad enough, they would have to completely shut down the whole facility so that no one could leave, no one could exit, kind of thing, to contain these dangerous SCPs, and risk having families and stuff of these researchers being killed, so that they could, so these big fucking doors shut, and no one's getting out, no one's coming in, and maybe even having an incineration going through the whole entire place. Obviously, that would do nothing against the hard to kill lizard, but yeah, I mean, there's all sorts of different things. I was just always thinking how really, really cool it would be, like, if an entire facility, you never see the light of day, there's no windows, you never know if it's really day or night, and you're always underground, and you're always and even having like little shops and like you said, entertainment, like little entertainment areas for the researchers that are in their off time, but they're still contained in the facility.
Yeah, that's actually nice.
So I was thinking something like that. He said, Victor said they detonated some of the sites where containment breaches proved too hard to control, and with an on-site nuclear warhead, but I doubt that would be practical at all in the game. Yeah, I mean, obviously, these are just kind of things that are story related, but aren't probably never going to come up in the game, because if we nuked the whole site, then obviously the game would be over. So,
Well,
and there can't really, and Cyrus said that could be the final end. Well, there can't really be a final end because SCPs are always being added. So
Yeah.
this is kind of almost an ongoing project that really has no end. So we've kind of already doomed ourselves to never finish this game,
Yeah.
pretty much. It's just kind of getting how much we can get done in the meantime.
Well, I think that's going over quite a bit of topics. Let me see if there's
Yeah.
anything.
I was about to say we should wrap it up just because we've going about an hour and a half, and I've talked about everything I had written down.
I pretty much talked about everything I was thinking of too. Story, we got the artistic style. Main key points I guess we go over with is the most important thing right now is the artistic style. That's what we need to work on. That's what we can work on at the moment. We need some facility. We need models for it. We need that look medical, and that's what we decided on.
Right.
More medical looking, kind of clean, sterile, white looking, and then let's see. That's pretty much what we have set for right now. Now, although the story, this is being recorded right now, so it's going to be uploaded so people can hear it. I will also upload these chats so people can understand what's going on. And we also read most of the stuff out too, so they can go along with it. And anybody can actually comment on it. I'll do a cross post from SCP and SCP Game. Just one thing I wanted to point out too. We should also cross post in our game. Or our gaming, but I think we should do that
after we have
on the first, either on the test build where we're showing off kind of like a proof of concept, or on the actual first release. But
I think we should wait. We have something playable.
Yeah, we can determine that once we get a proof of concept first.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's pretty much everything we needed to know for right now. Next time we do this, I'll have a little more advance notice. I just wanted to get something talked about real quick just before any of us lose any of the ideas we had.
Yep.
Just one done. Managed for the pre-alpha. We get a boatload. Yeah, it would be, but I don't want to get any negative exposure, having people flooding it and then talking bad about it, like Khad was saying with the vaporware stuff.
Yeah, I figure we have something at least to show, or something that people can download and actually play before we try to get that much exposure for it.
Yeah. We have actually, Cyrus, if you want to, look at, who was it? ACAB stuff that he posted in that SCP game. His concepts are pretty well done.
Yeah, they look really good. He actually took the level that I did and kind of put concept in melded in to show exactly how it would look. I think he said it's the third one on mine. It says apply artist 3D modeler, and then in the comments is when he posted it. So
yeah, I'm linking it right now real quick.
Yeah. Anyway, I am gonna get out. Get out of here.
I'm gonna go cut up the audio, make it sound nice.
Yep. So thanks for listening.
Yeah. All right. See you, man.
Yep. Have a good one.